Awesome. So good morning, good evening. My name is Youssef. This is the SONiC Workgroup community meeting call, and today's date is February 15th, and we're going to go ahead and pick up where we left off. It seems that we were leaving off on kind of stopping the metering discussion and going to move forward with the action item of just waiting to discuss until the P4 pipeline was kind of implemented there. But there was kind of going to be a conversation around inbound versus outbound in the future. But before we kind of start up and pick up on that, I wanted to briefly go over any PRs that were on top of mind for the group. Okay. So for the PRs, there was actually one PR that I made note of a while back, and there was just not opportunity because of the flow of conversation to kind of bring that up. There was a PR mentioned for the inbound routing scale that has been open for a little while, and then there was not any added comments there. It was based around Sunny and Miriam with the inbound routing scale. Are anybody familiar with this one, with this issue here that we have, and want to kind of pick up on this and see if there was any update to this one?
Well, I can speak to this. It's actually kind of an interesting issue. This is Chris. It initially began with some questions about scale, but then it kind of got some other issues injected into it about an error in the behavioral model that reports wrong match type when you try to remove some entries. And so that's the only reason this is kept alive. But technically, that error should probably be reported in a different issue so that they're not confused. But we needed a place to refer to in some of our test cases where we say skip this test because there's this issue in BMV2, and this is the issue we refer to. Yeah, I'd actually be in favor of moving this to its own issue, extracting this error information out, and then we can, kind of close the original case, because some people like Bud are sort of, let's say, stuck with this issue on their radar, even though it's not their issue.
Yep.
So I guess I would ask Anton, do you want to work together somehow to move this into its own?
Yeah, I was going to be a volunteer because that's my comment about the real bugs. Let's do this for. I will open a new one, and then if I have a permission, I will close this, or just put a comment that we can close this one because a new one is opened, and we will have at least a number here for tracking.
Yeah, if you can put that number here, it will be helpful.
Yeah, sure.
And also, are we tracking it in the BMV2 issues list?
We need to let's say we need to reinvigorate this there.
Sure.
So yeah, it hasn't got a lot of attention. We probably need to try to focus on it a little bit. It'd be nice to get expert advice on whether this issue can be resolved.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and move that. Okay.
Does this PR also contain any scale-related information that was still pending from the community? Was there any question from the community about scale?
I think that was all a part of the first half, though, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Prince answered the scale questions that it was about.
Okay.
Was this to do with mapping table scale?
You said dealing with the mapping table?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. And then
hey, yeah, this is Prince here.
Yeah.
Is there any question for me?
Yeah, so we were just trying to figure out if this had to deal with the mapping scale, the mapping table, excuse me.
Generally, I mean, for inbound case, we refer to the mapping table to look at to validate the PA address.
Right, right.
True, right? So if from that perspective, if we are talking about the scale, would that not be that table's scale versus any other table?
This is the PA validation table, right? Inbound, there is no CAPA mapping table. There is PA validation table. Yeah, just confirming that.
Oh, is there a separate table called PA validation table?
Yes, for inbound only.
Yeah, for inbound only. Okay. Mm-hmm. So in that case, then what's the scale of that, and then should we even add it to our scaling requirements that there is a PA validation table, and then this is how many entries it should support?
So I think we currently rely on the CAPA mapping table, but like Reshma said, we can have an explicit PA validation table, and because at this point it is kind of implicitly assumed that we have the CAPA mapping. So so for the reverse mapping, it can use the same table, but
that's what I assumed also, right? So
yeah.
That's why I never actually saw anywhere mentioning of a separate PA validation table, at least not in any of the doc or even in the P4 code. So if that were to be the case, maybe we can table that thing. Maybe we can define it later, but at least something that might come up.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, that is kind of not clearly called out today. Yeah, but it won't be like the like 10 million in that case, right? Because it's limited to the number of PAs.
Yeah. I completely agree. It'll be much smaller. So yeah.
Hey, this is Bud. Hey, I think the PA validation table is in the P4 code.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, is it? So I missed it, probably. Yeah. Okay.
So Prince, I think what he implied was that since we have the CAPA validation table and the scale of that is kind of defined already, so the PA validation scale is sort of implicitly derived from that table. But
yeah,
the PA
that's correct. That's how it is. Yeah, I didn't put the scale numbers in the HLD about what would be the number of PAs, but that I think I can put that. Yeah.
Sure. And the number of routes that we were discussing earlier, right, per ENI, the breakdown of IPv4, IPv6 route scale, that was also something Christina was going to was tracking to get that defined as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that would help a lot. It's not related to this PR, but I just remember that was also another item.
Okay, Reshma, so you wanted to track just the number of ENIs that were available, or?
Number of routes per ENI, the V4 and V6 route scale. IPv4, IPv6 routes, the number of routes. Breakdown
routes
of that.
per ENI, right?
Yeah.
Got you.
As we started talking about the scale, I think that we have some kind of table in the scale requirements document in the dash repo, so maybe we can put all information there in the one table, and we can provide even more scale requirements for different tables. That will be kept, in one place, like C2P, PA, inbound routing, outbound routing. And all. I know that some are already there, but for example, like IPv6, IPv4 would be great to have there also.
Got you.
Thanks.
I thought I will bring up this PR 332 just to inform everyone that Andy here has actually compiled the BMV to P4 on the P4 DPDK target at this time. So, sorry, the number is 332. I can share the screen if you like.
Yep, you can go for it. You can share screens.
There were a couple of small comments suggesting a couple of, I think, name changes or minor changes that I could create commits later today to address those.
Okay, I
But
hope
the bigger
I'm sharing
question
the
is,
right
do
screen.
people? Yeah, that's the right one.
Go ahead, Andy.
I'm just letting, there are a couple minor comments open in conversation, and I can, they're small changes, and I can make commits for those later today, and then folks can decide what they want to do with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
at the end of this, you'll see the comments. There's one just on a macro name. It was suggested to rename it for clarity. And then Hanif just found a kind of a type cut and paste oversight of my part that's in Docker file. That's just, you got to change one word for another.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so all these comments along the way kind of resolved. It's just some really small housekeeping at the end.
Got it.
It'd be nice to get this approved later.
Sure. So I wanted to mention that we also have the P4 DPDK target today as part of P4 line. This has the driver software that's needed, the software stack that's needed for the P4 DPDK target. And down here, there is a README that shows how to build and install the P4 in the P4 DPDK target. So, and it also has an example here. So, example of LPM, and how to use the LPM to basically verify. That's just an example. So at the moment, if we can take the P4 that Andy has compiled and use those artifacts and supply those artifacts here to this driver software for the P4 DPDK target, we can actually run that P4. And to be able to test it, we can launch the BF shell. That's also part of this software, and then we can, test one particular table at a time, like the LPM example that's shown down here. So I just wanted to show that to everyone here. And we need some help. Actually, we are trying to find folks within Intel to run this P4. We might be able to do that, but if anyone wants to collaborate in this effort, please let me know as well.
If someone wants to start a dev branch, or let's even do just some experimental work, getting this back end running for Dash, once, let's say, it's off the ground and kind of showing promise that it runs, I'd be happy to help integrate it into the workflow and CI pipeline and all that. But I don't know if I have time to like break the ice, so to speak, and build it from scratch and go through all the growing pains. It needs a little, if there's a little bit of curation first, I'd be happy to then start trying to get it into Dash workflows.
Got it.
Like
yeah,
Andy did the compiler. Andy got the compiler working and did all the things manually. It was very easy just to turn that into Docker files and automation and get it into Dash. So I'd be happy to play the same role if someone can break the ice, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually,
yes.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, please, Prince.
No, I have one PR to discuss, Reshma. So I mean.
Sure.
Yep, go for it. You want to share your screen, Sunny, or you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, I will. I'll share. I have to drop at 9:30 for a meeting, so I'll give a brief on this PR.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is optimizing the Dash ACL. The effort is to make sure we are optimizing the memory and those footprints. So basically the idea is, like, if you look at the Dash ACL, the source address is like a list of prefixes, right? So that's how we have defined it in previously. But what happens is like for each rule in the ACL table, you can have the same set of prefixes that are repeated across the rules, right? So so like for example, if there are like 1,000 prefixes in this source address field, like it is possible that the same set of 1,000 prefixes are repeated for another rule number as well. So instead what we introduced is kind of a tagging mechanism. So you can create a new table called prefix tag table and give a tag name, and that can have a list of prefixes. So this tag name can be used to qualify for the ACL table. So yeah, it's kind of a change from the previous model. So just want to give a heads up to the community that this is one thing in plan, and the PR is ready for review. Yeah, because of this change, we have also the pipeline changes, and the header files are changed as well. So yeah, please feel free to review. If you have any questions, yeah, let me know.
So Prince, we keep both the tag name as well as the list of prefixes. Should it not
Right,
be one or the other?
No, it can be either way, right? Because sometimes the list of prefixes can be like just 1 or 2 IPs, right? So in that case, you don't need to create a tag for every single thing. But this is intended for cases where you have like hundreds of thousands of prefixes in which is like repeatedly used, right? So we keep the flexibility of using the source address and the as the actual list of prefixes as well.
Okay, how do you define, because at least in the definition, no, sorry, basically this is the definition. Somebody were to basically create an instance of this and then says, okay, I want to really define it, and I'll specify this thing, but in this particular case, how do we designate that, if one is defined, the other one is not necessary, right? Like, for example, if you define the cluster of, source prefixes,
yes,
because then the source address is no longer needed, for example.
Right, you don't need that, but if you specify like, so your point is in a rule, if someone specifies the tags, then
yeah, then the source address is not needed, because this can be one or the other, can't be both, right?
Not really, right? It can be both as well. Let's say you have one prefix, right, which is a specific prefix, and then you have like say another 100 prefixes that are part of a tag. Then ideally you can have, let's say if
it will become the merge of the two, is it?
Yeah, it will become the merge of the two.
Okay, so
yeah,
then, but can be optional also, right? All I'm saying is
it can
that
be optional also.
yeah. So it can be just a tag, but not the other one. All I'm saying is that I don't know, within the schema, how would you define?
You are right. So I think we can, yeah, maybe I think you can give a comment that these should be optional, like as we have defined for these things, right? Like here in the routing type, if encap type, it's marked optional, right? So that's how we define in the schema, like, but these
maybe
ones here, right? Like,
the comment would basically signify. Yeah.
Okay, I think. Yeah, I can take care of that. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and the rest is about the behavioral model changes. Yeah, based on this new schema. So.
We'll probably be able to cover that in our behavioral model call.
Yeah, I think we can cover that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Prince,
Okay,
there is
Prince,
the same table here. I was just wondering whether it is related to inbound or it is for both outbound and inbound.
Yeah, this is for both
This is-
outbound and inbound because ACLs I have
ingress.
both. Yeah, ingress in we have separate in table and out table. Yeah.
Okay.
Prince, I also have a question regarding, so I saw that in the SONiC management you have merged VNet test case, and my question is whether you have a list what else should be actually executed on the dash in scope of the SONiC management. So that's, I like personally expect BGP, anything else, like are you going to have some changes in the test cases for that?
In SONiC management or in Dash?
Yeah, in SONiC management. In SONiC management.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. SONiC management, we have added the VNet to VNet test, right? So yeah, there will be. There's already some of the underlay tests like BGP we can reuse from SONiC management. It is. I think our team has already run those tests and found to be passing for BGPs and BGP fax those tests. But on top of the current one, we'll be adding like more of ACL test based on this new change. We'll add ACL test and some IPv6 based scenarios as well.
Those will
Yeah.
be new scenarios, and from
Yeah.
existing one, do we expect some maybe IP forwarding in basic
No,
stuff?
no. I think we have identified some tests like BGP fax, BGP. Those are the ones that are intended to run. IP forwarding is not in that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Also, like as I understand, we expect to have fan-out switch in that topology, but like since we have only 2 ports, I thought that we might even like get rid of it in some cases, just like for to reuse KVM based topology and set up it like with direct connections. Like
Okay.
yeah, I saw that like it's not for high hyperscale like with in big labs with multiple devices, but just as a quick start, we can make even a PR to SONiC management because it lack only of one script and it will be possible. If anybody is interested in this, we can do this PR.
Okay. Sure.
All right.
Hey, Prince, I have a quick question. I know you need to go in like 4 minutes or so. I was going through the documentation, like the SONiC dash HLD. One thing, since we are on the topic of ACL, it mentions about like 3 levels of ACL, like VNet, subnet, and VNIC, right? So, was it the case that the VNet is especially VNet VNet ACL is defined by say Azure, and the rest too, like VNIC and subnet, are from the customer? Is that
right?
the right understanding?
That's how I think we have another documentation also. Like Christina has another documentation explaining these different stages. But I think the plan is to have it as 5-stage ACL so that the customer has option to make.
Eventually, right? Yeah. But
3-stage.
one thing that I want to really just get some clarification on my part is perhaps maybe I don't know, you can point me which document it is, if there are any examples of different these kind of stages, like what is really considered as a subnet ACL versus VNIC versus VNet, and also does it matter in which order they get evaluated, because eventually the most restrictive the result is entertained, right? But
yes, yeah.
But if not, then I mean, I just want to get this clarification of examples of different types of ACLs, and also the order in which they should be evaluated. Or does it really matter? Does the order matter?
No, I think order doesn't matter, right? It goes through the stage 1 and then to stage 2, like how we have defined in the pipeline. So and like you said, it's the most restrictive that wins, right? But what examples for each stages, I think I can discuss with Christina and provide some data on that.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah. That
Appreciate
we
it.
can document. Yeah.
Thank you.
That will help you.
I also have one question regarding the bulk API. Do we have any requirements for minimum, maximum numbers of entries in a single call for the bulk API?
No, I think it's as far as I know, I think it's the Redis bulk API mechanism, right? So I don't know the max number, but maybe I can get some data on that from the team to see how much was the maximum that they could do in one bulk API. I'm not aware of any restrictions there. It's in one notification how much of let's say, for example, from the AppDP to Orc agent, if let's say 10,000 routes come, all those are just bulked from the Orc agent to the SAI bulker. There's no hard limits on that currently. So
Do we know if the Thrift transport would be able to handle that for testing? That I know
yeah,
that's
I'm not
a
sure
SONiC
about
issue,
that.
but
Yeah.
we'll probably
I
find
think
out.
that's the question that Anton was probably asking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he already has plans to implement the bulking support. So it depends on how many.
Yeah, but we need to understand, like, actually, whether we have some requirements from the Dash for that. Okay.
No, I don't think there is any requirement per se, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we got a couple really great questions to kind of circle back to. I was able to kind of take note on that, just making sure that we understand about the bulk API and see if there's any documentation around that. And I know Sunny and Christina are going to connect to be able to give a little bit more clarity just around the difference between the subnet ACL and the VNet ACL. Yeah, so I was able to kind of take note on that. Is there any other PRs that we want to take a look at? I know Sunny just had to drop, but there are, some newer ones here that we can kind of review.
Do you have something on the screen to show us?
So this is where we're sitting at now. I know we reviewed a couple of these already, but if there isn't any interest as of now, we could just pick it up based on any updates after Christina and Sunny maybe connect on a few of those questions.
I'm sorry, which item on the screen are you referring to?
It was more so just a conversation before on just understanding the difference between the VNet ACL and the subnet ACL and stuff like that. But we already kind of reviewed, like, for example, 332, reviewed the other PR that Reshma was able to bring up, but just trying to make sure that we kind of touch on everything that we wanted to.
Yeah, we can pick up the conversation about these items that we discussed today next week. Whenever we have more information on those, that sounds fine. Any other PRs to discuss today, or do we have another topic like the inbound routing pipeline for metering?
Yeah, because I remember inbound, outbound being a big topic for today. Okay. All right, so it's looking like I'll give back a little bit of time to you all. All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, and be able to see everybody next week or in the behavior model call tomorrow.
Well, yeah, thanks a lot, Yusuf. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.